Many players in World of Warships Legends, myself included, spend an awful lot of time criticizing the gameplay in this game for producing too many one-sided blowouts. And it certainly does. One-sided blowouts are pretty much a guarantee. Every time you load this game up and play a couple of matches, at least one of them is almost certainly going to be a blowout. But some of those matches are also going to be fairly close and competitive. I've got one such match for you today in the Nelson W. I played this game last week in the session where I was trying to beat the rather low damage record of the Nelson W, and technically speaking, that damage record in the official World of Warships Legends Discord was 151,000 and something. By the end of this game, we're going to have 152,000 damage, so I technically beat it with this match, but it wasn't as much damage as the one I ultimately ended up putting on YouTube, which was more like 179,000. Probably somebody's gone out and beaten that record in the time since. However, this match, even though the damage is lower, I think it's a more interesting match to analyze. So, we spawn on a rather low-tier map. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. Ring or something like that? And we spawn near the Alpha Cap, so of course we're going to play it. We've got a blue destroyer entering the Alpha Cap, and we've got Leon out there. There's another battleship too, the Caracciolo, and I think an enemy Scharnhorst is going to be entering the picture as well. So there's a lot of ships, most of which are Tier 5 or Tier 6 out here. And the Nelson, of course, has the unique downside. Well, actually, it's not unique. All Tier 6 battleships, even the Gneisenau, have this downside of having overmatchable bow armor. However, it's only overmatchable by 15-inch or 380mm guns or larger. Caracciolo and Leon, they don't have 15-inch guns, neither does the Scharnhorst, so we're relatively well protected by the Nelson's armor scheme from these guys, provided we angle. We don't really angle there, and Caracciolo gets a tiny little hit on us, but the friendly destroyer is close to securing the Alpha Cap, and the 4 enemy ships outside of it don't look like they're ready to push in anytime soon, except for maybe this Scharnhorst. Torpedoes, though, coming from the right-hand side of the screen, looks like 3 sets of triple torps. That'll be the enemy Akatsuki, who will soon be appearing. Unfortunately, the blue team takes its first casualty in the form of a Pensacola, giving broadsides to battleships. 4 battleships, no, 3 in fact. A tale as old as time, the floating citadel of sadness goes down. What a tragedy. He's followed on his trip back to port by another friendly cruiser. And so the blue team has lost 2 ships right off the bat, with only 4 minutes having elapsed in this match. Our concealment on the Nelson, to transition to something completely different, is 11.8 kilometers by sea, because we've spec'd into stealth using the concealment mod and Kondo as one inspiration on the build. And the fact that we were spotted before shooting our guns means that the enemy Akatsuki is within 11.8 kilometers of us, so we know we're in pretty much the danger zone. The Akatsuki has to be on the right-hand side of the island, so we go behind it, cut off his line of sight as he gets spotted by the friendly destroyer, who promptly smokes up and begins shooting at the Akatsuki. If we continue on our trajectory here, we are going to be giving broadside to the Scharnhorst, and we're going to shoot his broadside with AP. A risk I'm willing to take, though, in order to switch to the HE, to have shots on the Akatsuki, who we spot coming around the corner. He begins to deploy his smoke screen, and we could guess that torpedoes were likely going to be coming our way, courtesy of his launchers, so we turn our ship out of the way to avoid the torpedoes, and successfully dodge all of them. Nelson is uniquely capable of pushing into destroyers when the situation calls for it because of all the main battery guns being on the front. That allows you to switch the firing side of the ship from port to starboard as you're going forward, and zigzag, which is usually enough to throw off torpedoes. Akatsuki, though, is hurting. Our destroyer, you can see, is not pursuing the Akatsuki, which is absolutely the correct choice. He's got no HP, and if he's spotted by that Akatsuki in front of the Scharnhorst and the other ships that are in the area, he's going to go down. Luckily, some of our teammates, the Leipzig that is, finishes off the Akatsuki, and our poor destroyer teammate is stuck running into us. We're going to have to extricate ourselves from this situation and hopefully turn around to take this Alpha Cap. Things are not exactly developing great for the blue team. Each team has lost 3 ships so far, but the Reds have control of the Charlie and the Delta Caps, and it looks like they're about to take control of Alpha, which is not ideal. If they gain 3 capture circles to our 1 in Bravo, well then they're going to overtake us on points very quickly, and we're going to have to play a game where we need to sink all of the enemy ships immediately in order to have any chance of winning. Things are not looking good now as the friendly Colorado goes down. There are now only 5 ships left alive on the blue team, 2 battleships, a cruiser, and 2 destroyers. Very soon, the cruiser and the other battleship aside from myself is going to go down, and it's going to leave us in a 3v5 scenario. Zara, who was playing this cap, is now retreating from it, and it seems Scharnhorst is the only one here. I don't know what happened to the enemy Leon. He might have gone down, but I think he might have also retreated to the other side of the map because there still is an enemy Leon in this game. Honestly, not sure if it's the same one or not. In any case, Scharnhorst is playing the bow tank reverse game in the battleship, which essentially makes him a sitting duck. You really can't do this to the Nelson, of all things, not with this kind of HE firepower. If he wants to sit there bow tank in reverse, well then we'll just shoot him with our HE. He can hit us with HE in return, but German HE is fairly anemic in terms of damage output. It does have better penetration than your typical HE, but you see, when the Scharnhorst shells hit us, they do 996 damage. Maybe they start a fire, but fires for the Nelson are of course irrelevant. It's got a super heal, and all fire damage is 100% healable. Nevertheless, we'll use the DCP. To be honest, in retrospect, I don't know why I'm doing that. The Scharnhorst can just light me on fire again, and I don't have DCP ready to go. However, he backs behind an island, still burning from the fire we lit on him, and Zara shows himself once again. HE is probably not the proper shell type to be shooting at this cruiser. It does decent damage when it hits, but what we really want is the AP in order to get citadels. And the Zara's sap is, well, it's more of a threat than the Scharnhorst's HE, let's put it that way. The sap will hit us and penetrate our armor scheme essentially everywhere, unless we're somehow angled enough to bounce it, which is unlikely. Their sap can bounce, it just doesn't happen a lot. Zara's gonna nickel and dime us for all our HP if we're not careful. We're gonna keep the pressure up on him, but he's outside of our detectability range right now, so that gives us an opportunity to go dark. There is 1 enemy destroyer left on the team, and if we silence our guns for a moment and go dark, but still remain spotted, then we'll know that the destroyer is within danger close range. But we aren't spotted, which indicates he's nowhere around here. Our other destroyer teammate is over there by the Charlie Cap, torpedoing the destroyer, which is coming in, as well as the Dutch cruiser. We've got some AP shells going out at that cruiser's broadside, and I make the decision here, which I think is the right one, to turn into the center of the map. All we've got over there is the kiting Zara, who, really, we're at a disadvantage if we're going to chase him while he's kiting, and then the Scharnhorst, who has thus far proven himself to not really be a threat to the outcome of this game. However, this cruiser and this destroyer certainly are. The cruiser is just about ready to take out our final battleship teammate, the North Carolina over there, who up until this point I think has had a good game. Judging by his place on the leaderboard when all is said and done, I don't think he did anything particularly wrong, but he does end up taking an early trip back to port with over 5 minutes left to go in the match, leaving me and the 2 destroyers as the sole remaining teammates on the blue team. And this is versus 5 enemy ships, one of which is the Scharnhorst in front of us, who continues to reverse into oblivion. Unfortunately, we've got the wrong shell loaded. It's the AP, and the results are actually pretty good, so maybe it was the right shell. Scharnhorst has no HP left. Zara is now in a situation where he is presenting us the advantage. He's coming in far too close, and with this AP, we ought to be able to take him out, provided RNGesus doesn't send our shells into the water on either side of the enemy cruiser. We'll try that again. This time the accuracy is much better. However, the results are not all that spectacular. We do net the high caliber medal, and we are on fire. We're going to have to deploy one of these super heals. We're not going to burn the DCP right now, but you see what I mean about the Zara's sap being a legitimate threat to the Nelson's armor scheme. That was quite a bit of damage from one little salvo over there. This guy has got to go. At this point, he is a bigger threat to us than the Scharnhorst is. We knew his torpedoes were coming, of course, which is why we change our course at the last possible moment. And you can't bow tank the Nelson in your tier 6 cruiser. Citadel through the nose of Zara. He goes down for our first kill of the game to follow our fist that we got earlier. Now the team count is almost even. It's still a 3v4 in favor of the enemy team, but Scharnhorst, well, he might as well be off the board already. He's got maybe less than 5,000 HP left to go. We've got the AP chambered. He is angled against us, but like us, he does technically have an overmatchable bow, and he's got the German superstructure, which is easy to hit for our second kill of the game. Enemy Dutch cruiser dropping his airstrikes on us, practicing, no doubt, for when he acquires the cracked Johann de Witt or the Howden Lou, even though I don't think you can get that right now. In any case, we know that the only remaining ships left are the enemy Leon, that Dutch cruiser whose name I can't pronounce, and one last enemy destroyer. The cap situation is still not in our favor, but the kills have made the points count a little bit more even. It's 627 versus 730, and we're going to be able to take this cap with the help of our friendly DD. We meet the Dutch cruiser, who does light us on fire twice, but the friendly DD takes him out with the torpedo. 3v2 now. We are turning the tide, as they say, with the help of our two friendly destroyers, one of which is next to us, the other of which is making the correct choice and going for the Bravo cap, where the enemy destroyer was last spotted. If you look at the minimap, you'll see that they've met each other to the right-hand side of Alpha. The enemy destroyer is giving broadside to the friendly one, and it doesn't look like he's got a lot of HP left. So, friendly DD wins that contest, and that pretty much secures the victory. All that's left is the Leon, and once that red DD goes down, it almost doesn't matter what happens to me. The red DD goes down, we give our teammate a sincere, well-played and good game. Both of these destroyers honestly are impressive. You can see they're still alive with 2 minutes left to go in the game, and throughout the entire match, they've contributed positively to our team's chances of victory. Even this guy right next to us. He took a lot of damage early on in that cap that we spawned at, the Alpha cap, but what did he do? He didn't push in and get himself sunk for no reason while achieving no goals, like taking the cap, for example. Instead, he retreated. He relied on our support to help clear out that cap, and then we pushed alongside him to this point in the battle. Leon does take us out, but we've got a fire burning on him, and he doesn't have DCP off cooldown. So, the friendly destroyer doesn't really have to do anything. He might not know that, though. Of course, we aren't in communication with him. He could shoot at the Leon, but he's not. The friendly destroyer from the other side, who's concealed behind the islands, opens fire. But it doesn't matter. Our fire is going to be what takes down the Leon, and ultimately, that wins us the game. We get the It's Just a Flesh Wound medal, a third kill, and we have 152,000 damage done. Not really spectacular damage numbers, but a decent result nonetheless, with 2,800 base XP, followed by the Benham, and the other destroyer was fourth on the leaderboard behind the North Carolina that went down late. So really, all you need are about 4 competent teammates out of 9 in order to win the battles. It only takes a few players to influence the outcome. And good destroyer play, like those of the destroyers on the blue team, should be praised on YouTube whenever it occurs. So GG's to those guys. Hope you enjoyed this video today. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.